Welcome to the Late Game Podcast, a podcast about all things board gaming, from rolling dice to painting minis and everything in between. I'm your host, Tyler, and with me is Kenneth.
What up?
And Russ.
Hello.
And I'm sure some of you can tell that I don't sound quite right, and that is because I just came from the dentist.
But you sounding not quite right is pretty normal. So.
Sure. Well,
The only thing that I can, because I'm listening for it, when you said you were going to the dentist before we were going to record, I got really excited because I was hoping you would sound like shit. And the only
that's
thing,
really nice of you.
well,
it would have been entertaining.
Yeah, no, it would have been funny. Like, I don't care. Like,
he's honest.
I don't.
I like that.
Yeah, I don't take anything seriously enough to not have fun at a friend's expense. But the only thing that I can tell is your S's have a little hint of H on them.
They shouldn't, but they do.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only thing that's going on.
I feel
it's a little
slower.
bit disappointed. Yeah, that may be.
Oh, I'm fighting, dude. It's taken a lot for me not to sound slobbery. So, but
Nice.
Anyway, this week we're going to be discussing deck building games, and we'll go over a brief history of the top 10 according to BGG and a couple of our favorites. But first, let's share what we've been playing lately. I'll start because there's a couple of them that I feel like just kind of browse or just pushing through, and that's Crusaders. I played that with my wife one-on-one, and I still love every ounce of that game. And then Gates of Delirium, I played with our gaming couple, and everybody thoroughly enjoyed that one again.
Nice.
And then I got one of the games I forgot to mention about getting for Christmas was Codenames Deep Undercover. I got that from my little sister, and we played that.
That's just Codenames Potty Mouth, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was pretty good, especially when my son walked into the room and we had to whisper words that I've never whispered before. You know, it was funny. It added to the quality of that comedic tone.
Right on.
And
yeah,
then
I've kind of heard that the way to do it with that Deep Undercover is to mix it with regular Codenames.
Yeah.
So you don't quite know what's how dirty you're supposed to be, and like you get the real like double entendres and all of that.
The amount of innuendo on every one of those words, and you can say just one really dirty thing, and half of the words or more link to it, and you're like, oh shit.
So are they only words or are there pictures?
There's no pictures, but I thought,
Yeah,
I was kind of like,
you weirdo.
what?
It's not porn.
No,
game.
No, I didn't. I didn't think that, but it was like,
oh,
what are
man.
they gonna have on there?
Although I thought, how would it be to mix like Marvel Codenames?
Mixing code names always sounds like really fun,
Deep Undercover,
which is really cool, but it's really hard.
yeah,
Even if you mix like within Marvel, sometimes we'll switch. So half words, half picture.
yeah.
That becomes difficult. Marvel and Disney together, it was like, those will work. That's really easy. And it really wasn't.
That's awesome.
In a good way. Like,
Right.
I think it makes it better.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that I actually buy multiple versions of.
Right.
I kind of want that new Simpsons one.
So
that's
do
out.
I.
So,
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to have like a giant Codenames chaos and just throw everything in and just
it is
a good
it
party
is
game.
My favorite tournament that I've ever been in at a convention was Codenames. Like,
That's cool. I can
it is
see
a
that.
really fun competitive game, like with your team. Like, it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
I wouldn't mind trying that because the only times that I've ever played Codenames, it's always been Codenames Marvel, and it's always been with like the kids. And playing with the kids is a lot of green one, and it's like, okay, cool. So it's going to be the Green Goblin, Hulk, or She-Hulk. Hulk? No? Shit. Like, all right, cool. Way to narrow that down, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and then I will go with something that's like like you got to kind of know Marvel a little bit, and I'll be like, all right, I know how these three are like linked, and I'll maybe like say like, the name of the team, or like it'll be like Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and I'll be like because you say one word and then a number, right? So
Right.
I'll be like, higher 2. And they'll be like, well, Vulture's flying, so he's up higher. And
Oh.
it's like, no! Like, come on!
But it's kind of fun to learn the strategies of setting yourself up for end game, right? Like if you don't guess, okay, I don't know for sure what it is, so you kind of hold on to that, and then at the end you're like, higher 0, so they can guess as many. And we had a few games like that in the tournament where we would come back and win at the end. It was and it becomes very intense. So
It can be.
so
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I honestly don't think that was the type of conversation that I've had with this couple yet. So it was
Break the
interesting.
ice, right?
It was, and it was hilarious. Like I don't know. I think we all learned something about each other that really was okay. I mean,
that would be really weird with
It
that
was.
game, because
in a positive
what you
way.
say about one of those words may not even connect with them.
Right.
See, that's one of those things that I know that just in general, I tend to not always be on the same wavelength as people. So I feel like I would either be having the most fun or the least fun in a group of,
Sure.
like any random group. And people would either really have a good time with it or be completely unsettled by the things that I would say.
I think it'd be fun to play with our group, just mixing it in with the regular words. But another one I think that would be good, regardless of player count for our group, would be Cartographers. And my wife and I played that with them, and then again, 2-player. And
Is this the first that you've gotten to play it non-solo?
yeah,
Nice.
and both times it was great. And again, it's awesome solo as well. I prefer it with other people, of course, but
How different is it? Because I mean, we've talked about it. We know the basics. You're building a map of a world, and so when you're playing solo, are you like just trying to high score type of thing?
yes.
What about against other people? Is there like player interaction? Are you like going head to head?
Absolutely. The player interaction comes with
Can we put monsters on people's
the
maps?
monsters. And yep, what you do is when you draw one of the monsters, it will give you a direction, and you're going to pass your map to the person to your right or left, depending on that directional arrow, and they get to draw the monster on your map. And then everything outside of the square of the monster is going to give you a -1 if it's not covered. So you're trying to strategically screw over that person's map with a mess of where the monsters go. And it's really, really fun. And my wife is really damn good at it. She won both games, the 4-player and the 2-player,
Nice.
pretty handily.
So it sounds like it's like borderline like a totally different game playing with other people.
Yeah.
Like
The monsters, when they come out, the card itself will have a little quadrant icon on it, and that's where you have to start in that corner for solo play, and you draw it, in the most readily available spot in that corner.
Huh.
So there is some similarities, but I much prefer somebody else drawing
it sounds like it'd be way more interesting with the chaos
So is it
of human nature.
Is it a roll and write in the same vein as on tour, where player count is endless, or more like that's pretty clever, where like you're kind of limited on
Well,
how
you-
many
It's
can play?
said that it
completely
was like-
endless.
Like
I would
1
say-
to 100 because it comes with a pad of like 100 maps or whatever.
Need to
And
get some of those laminated.
honestly, you could play it with an entire convention hall if you had an overhead projector and everyone could see the main 4 cards and what was going on and what you're drawing. You could do it with
Is that a
unlimited
challenge?
amount of hell yes.
You could
Let's do that.
You could totally do that with On Tour also.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think that would be like really interesting, like almost to a like to look at the statistics, because I finally got to play on tour over the weekend, and it was cool. It was interesting. I want to play it again. I'm not like jumping up to get to go buy it, but I wouldn't mind trying it again. And I think that with like a large group of people, and I'm talking like 50 plus, 100 plus, I feel like at some point
You would
with-
have
with
overlap,
those-
right? Somebody would have.
that's what
that
I'm saying,
same
dude. I'd
map.
want to see how much overlap there would be.
Sure.
Like, there's got to be some amount of overlap, right? Like, I would desperately want to see how much overlap there is. I'd want like deep statistics on the entire thing. Everybody,
Right.
like, I don't know what the the spreadsheet what I'd necessarily want it to look like, but I would want to know like what some percentages of like how much overlap is there, how many people ended up with the same score, if anybody ended up with the same route, how many people do you have to have in the same room to end up with more than one person with the exact same route, regardless of how well they do.
Right.
You know, like
it's really interesting in that game, and I think there's probably other roll and writes that are similar, where literally everybody has the same exact information, and it's pretty basic information.
Yeah.
How do you approach it? Like,
yeah,
that is, so you would have to have, I mean, I would do a whole study on it and do.
What's funny
that
is
would be
like,
fun to do a psychology study on it and have people that share the same part of their brains play, see how they do the game, see how other people do it.
What's kind of funny about it is, so I mean, you're flipping cards, random, you're rolling dice, random, and yet I would say that it's a very, very Euro roll and write, because with Euros, generally, everyone kind of has the same information, the same resources, kind of the same starting, and then it's just how do you strategize from there? And that's exactly what you're doing in this everything else random game, but everyone has the same random, so it has kind of that like a Euro puzzly feel, with the difference being like, you know, with something like brass, you kind of know what the end game is going to look like. And you can see the path forming further off in the distance than you can with on tour. But that optimizing, what are you going to do? How, like, who's better at figuring this out? It's really cool that way.
It's an interesting first play because it's really easy to teach. The rule book is super simple. The information's easy, but until you get like halfway through, it's almost like you don't feel like you're doing anything on the first play because it feels so wide open. Like, I can literally write these numbers pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
But then as you get like halfway through, then you might be limited based on the cards.
Right.
Or it's not really working out where you want to.
Or maybe you filled up the spaces where you have the cards availability.
Right. So it's first play always feels a little not bad, because I really enjoyed it first play, but it's very open. It's like, are you sure I'm doing this right? Like, so I can just put it anywhere.
What's funny is it felt very open, and then like all at once it was like borderline claustrophobia closed in.
Sure.
You know, like it was like, okay, cool. I can just put this here. Hey, that's great. And this goes over here. And hey, that's cool. Like I've got a whole lot of options. And then, I mean, how many spaces are on the board? 40?
48, I think.
48.
Like.
So, when you get to where you're around, you filled in 35 or so, when you're looking at like 10 left, you start going, I mean, this is the only place I can do this. Like, there's only one option. Up your whole That's plan. The only thing, and it's useless. I can see that it's not going to help me at all. There's just nothing I can do.
Yeah.
There's no way to link it.
Yeah. I had a play where we only got one wild, and it was like the second to last roll, and everybody at the table was like so stressed. Like, our scores, I think the highest one was like 18. We had some scores under 10. It was like
18's a fine score.
It actually is. It's a weird game where it feels like, oh, I should be able to get a really high score, and then you start out where you're circling everything. You're like, oh, this is going to really connect, and then you see that you have this one city that you have to go through, and that one number doesn't roll. Then that number rolls perfect, and you don't have the card to place it.
Right.
And it's like, this is dumb.
Well, when we played with the Kevins, 3 of the 4 of us got 26 by the end of the game. Because of because of the fact that we had like 3 or 4 wilds in a row, and that was really helpful.
Wilds really help.
Yeah.
So
I feel like there's also a possibility that our play of On Tour, it didn't grab me as much because it was right after playing 2 games of World Championship Russian Roulette, and that game was exciting. Like,
before we talk about that, I did love. Jared, you're reading the rule book. It's going to take you a while. Let's fit in another game. I expect that to be the plan moving forward.
Absolutely.
Because it really kept game night going.
Yeah.
Just the dedicated rule guy?
Oh, man, it was, which he is anyway. And
right.
It was just so it was so nice because we didn't have the downtime.
And On Tour plays quick enough, you know. And
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
reading the book for Valhalla, which we'll come back to.
Which was pretty thick, so it was
well,
like,
it looked pretty thick, but
yeah.
really it's a fairly simple rule set. And so kind of thumbing through it last night when I was kind of reorganizing all of that stuff. I really think he was letting the language difference.
Yeah.
I think he was letting it get to him more than
there also was
a problem.
A football game on it.
There was a really good football game on.
Distracted too, so it was.
Yeah.
But man, getting back to the World Championship Russian roulette, that game, we got to play it, Tyler.
Dude,
that game.
And the dudes that did it, they actually run a podcast, Tuesday Night Games, the Tuesday Night Podcast, and it is awesome. It's really well done. So they're fellow podcasters, and maybe, one of these days we'll have a chance to sit down and chat with them too.
I had to open the windows. I was sweating pretty good in that game.
Yeah, it was intense, and I've never seen Russ so quickly just 180 on a game, because we were starting to play, or we were getting ready to start and stuff, and he was kind of going, this seems pretty morbid.
It did.
And I
there's
was
some funny stuff.
I'm well, yeah, I mean, it's, it's a joke. He's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, dude, you were 1 minute ago, you were talking about Cthulhu Death May Die. You were talking about literally fighting unspeakable horrors that drive you insane. And this is too dark for you. He's like, yeah, but this is real death. And I'm like, so?
Well, one of the action
Like,
cards I read too was kind of I bang you,
yeah.
which was kind of a funny play on words. So it made it seem like I was not finding the humor in that, but I was like, oh, these words, these names of these actions are pretty funny.
Yeah, and we ended up playing it twice because it played pretty quick. I mean, it was 20 minutes or so.
I probably would have wanted to play a third time, except for that was the second stupid game in a row. I should have won, and an action card cost me the game.
Yeah.
So what kind of game is this?
So it's very much a push your luck bluffing type of game.
Okay.
So what you've got a deck of 7 cards. One of them is a bang or a bullet,
Mm-hmm.
and you put one of them in your pocket, and so then you're left with the 6, and then you've got a die that you bet how far you'll be able to go. So you go, all right, I'm gonna do 4 trigger pulls, and then you put your finger gun up to your head, and everyone all at the same time, you
which
count
at
3,
first seemed kind of weird, okay, I'm gonna hold that up, because it seemed I don't need to worry about that part of it.
So on 3, everyone flips over a card. If you get a bang, you're dead. And you've got a team. You've got your main guy and then 3 minions or whatever.
Okay.
So you can die up to on your 4th time, you're out.
First 2 cards, before we keep talking about the rules. First 2 cards for me, first 2 rounds, bang, first card.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the broad strokes of it. And then you get points based on how far you went. So if you bet that you could go 4 and you went 4 clicks without killing yourself, then you get whatever you bet plus 1. So you get 5 points. In the first, there's 2 end game triggers. Either everyone else is dead, or when someone gets to 15, at that point, whoever has the most points wins. And if there's a tie, you continue going. So the first game, me and Ben both reached 15 at the same time, and we had to play another round, and I think Ben ended up winning. Let me see. Jared ended up winning. Ben ended up winning the second game. Yeah, me and Ben were the ones that saved the game to keep going.
So I had,
but Jared was able to pull
that first
it out.
game. All I had to do was I had, I think, 2 cards left. One was a click and one was a bang. Oh, going through that stack was, if it wouldn't have been a bang and killed myself, I would have been able to win. So it was oh man, what is it gonna be?
So the 2 things that make it interesting and make it intense. One, you can pocket the bang so that you just got clicks. So before you actually start clicking away, everyone gets a chance to accuse someone of cheating. Now, if I accuse you of cheating and you show that you've just got a click in there, I have to take a click out of my deck and add a bang in.
Oh.
Jared had like
And
4
shuffle
bullets
it.
in one of his.
So, and if you've got a bang in there, bang, you're dead. Like you have to flip over. If I accuse you, you have to flip it over. If you're innocent, you also get action cards, which is the other, like real rub to the game. So the game is broken up into, is it 6 phases?
Yeah.
I mean, everything's kind of 6s because 6 shooters, but there's action cards that trigger at different points or at different phases of the game. So there's one where, in the phase where you're shuffling up your deck, you can look at the top 3 cards before you bet on how far you can get. There's one where, like, in the betting phase, you can make someone, instead of, like, they'll bet, 2 is as far as I'm willing to bet. And then you can go, all right, now you roll, because you do your bet on a die. You roll that die, that's your new bet.
Yeah, you pushed me to 5 on that one.
Yeah, I know. You bet, what, 1 or 2, and
Yeah.
I ended up having you roll it, and you got up to 5.
Yeah.
And then there's in the actual, like, triggering phase, there's ones where you point your finger guns at other people or in the air or whatever, and that's where the finger guns actually come into play.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you've seen the episode of The Office where there's like everyone's like there's this standoff in the office and everyone's got their finger guns pointed at each other.
We had a few of those. It was pretty awesome.
And it was hilarious. It was so funny and so, like, it was so tense and funny.
It's
like,
oh, Ken's winning. Everybody's pointing at Ken, flipping
Yeah.
their cards to see if he dies.
You know what? I gotta bring cash and guns next time because they come with foam guns.
Yeah.
And not only that, it sounds somewhat similar because you're trying to see who's gonna be the one that doesn't get anything from the loot haul.
It was some of the, like, funniest, most lighthearted, and yet very, very real tension I have ever experienced in a game. It was like, it felt so light and fun and silly and so
Stressful.
totally, like, cutthroat and intense and like borderline mean, but it was too funny to be mean. And the game only lasts, 15, 20 minutes. So you kind of go,
It's a stressful 15, 20 minutes, though.
Let's do it again.
That
Let's
seems
do it
like
again
a
right now.
really good pairing, though, as far as, like,
Yeah.
atmospheres from a
it's so
game.
good.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, like, I had heard of it a while ago, and I want to say it was, like, between printings or whatever, and I couldn't find it. And then a couple months ago, there was a big used board game swap locally, and a bunch of people had posted, like, their lists of what they were doing, and I wanted to go to that, and I ended up working and not being able to make it. And the 2 games that, like, the number 1 game that I would have gone for was Container, which, me not being there, I was asking, our group to grab me games, and that was Kevin's number 1 target. So I was like, well, with me not being there, like, it's not like I'm going to be able to go, hey Russ, beat Kevin there, I was like, all right, let Kevin get Container and we'll play it. We'll play Kevin's Container.
Sure.
That's fine. And then kind of the number 2 thing, because I wanted to go and just be there and go to the swap and see what you've got and what do you got, and oh, this sounds great. I'd never even heard of this, that sort of shit.
Yeah.
But the other thing that, like, caught my eye, since I wasn't going to be there and it was relatively cheap, was World Championship Russian Roulette. Apparently that thing sold out, the 1 or 2 copies that were there were gone within, like, minutes. They were sold just as fast as that copy of Container was gone. And
I totally understand why.
Yeah, no, I really was going for it really just based on theme, because it's a fast-playing, low-priced game about suicide. And
it's kind of a dark topic, but
it's super dark. It's
tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Yeah, just the name, World Championship Russian Roulette, like,
how could you do that?
How many how many people are in this competition, So I had my eye on it, and it didn't work out, and I was irritated that I had to miss the sale for work. So I got on Amazon, found it, and then I want to say I had like a $10 credit for Amazon. I ended up getting it cheaper through
Right on.
Amazon than I would have got.
I couldn't
it
find
from
it
the
on
thing.
Amazon on Saturday night.
Yeah,
As we
we
played. We were playing, and I was trying to find it.
Yeah,
Well,
after game one, he
I
was
listened-
like, "Well, it's sold out."
I listen fairly regularly to Tuesday night games, so next time they get the
Yeah.
restock, I'll let you know.
And it was,
Because I've heard about it a couple times.
it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So I have a variant I want to try where you just roll the dice, and it's whoever lives the longest.
Yeah,
So you just, what's your luck? I mean, it'd be a lot more luck based.
yeah,
And it seems like, here's the thing, the more we played it, there's a lot of strategy and there's a lot of salty that can come with it too.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I was set up to win both times. The second one, I was irritated because I didn't realize, I thought I knew all the actions. There was one I didn't pay attention to in the first game that allows someone to call you for cheating after. So, like, when I thought I had won, I was like, all right, casually flipping my cards, and I got accused of cheating. And I was cheating. But I had a card that allowed me to cheat, but it was only during a certain phase. So it was like,
but that card only works during the
right.
being
So,
accused phase. Yeah,
so I was protected, I thought. So that added a little to it. But game-wise, it's such a genius because that card is kind of this whole, like, I can get out of jail free card, but really it wasn't. Like, there seemed to be a counter for every card
Mm-hmm.
because if someone plays the point at whoever, there's also cards that let you, everybody has to point in the air. So,
yeah. And
like, you
whatever
think
the
you're gonna
last
be
action
safe.
was is the one that takes precedent.
yeah, so there was
Right.
one turn where I had, it's called Peek the Boo. I had peeked at my cards and knew the order, and it was like, okay, everybody shoot in the air. And then somebody played a card after that said you can aim at anybody. And I was like, son of a, all right, who am I killing?
Yeah.
You know, it was just, it's
Yeah,
really fun.
or I
It's
want to
such a
say
good one.
the exact reverse even happened where
Yeah.
like someone did the peak and they were like, all right, one of these first ones is a kill. We're going to be aiming at other people, and then like points directly across like you're winning. And then that person goes, aim for the sky. And it was like, ha, your plan was foiled. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was really good.
The publishers, Tuesday Night Games, they didn't design that one. They just published it. But the one that they designed that they kind of got on the map for is Two Rooms and a Boom, which is a social deduction game where you're trying to save or blow up the president
Yeah,
from
Yeah,
red team.
I've heard
blue
things
I've
team.
about
heard of it. I don't really know much about it, but I've definitely heard of Two Rooms and a Boom.
It seems interesting.
right on.
Another fun one that would
Yeah.
be great for convention time.
Yeah.
So we've been playing a lot of Quacks. Teaching
No
the family.
surprise.
Did you get your
Right.
bits?
No, he's still playing with the poor people cardboard stuff.
Well, they're not in stock yet.
Yeah, it's not about being rich or
Um,
poor. It's about the fact that they don't exist
Car-
enough for him.
Accessibility is
Carnival
the
of
issue.
Monsters we got to the table.
Yeah, we
I
got.
still
Which-
need to get that.
Which I really bummed that, because I knew everybody in our group would like it, and when I could get the copies for $12 and like seriously probably would have bought any copy they had because I knew, but that's a good one. I
Yeah, that one.
really enjoy that game.
That one was.
Demolition has it for 27. That's not bad
No,
considering the game inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was another like instant hit with everyone that played, and I mean to no surprise at all.
Right.
so I finally got the Bears and the Bees to the table. That's a Grandpa Beck's game. It's kind of just
Oh, cool.
a discard, see who can discard fastest type of game. And the cards are hexagonal, and it's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to playing it again. It was a hit with the family, the extended family. It's because your cards have to match two sides of a different card, so it's quite a thinky game for just a discard, because you have to find somewhere on the board to discard your cards. And if you match three sides, you get a second play. And then there's wilds, there's bears, so it's,
Is it just an attempt to get rid of your hand?
yeah, you're just
Okay.
trying to get rid of your hand and you play 3 rounds. But there's quite a bit of strategy for a game that's just discard your cards.
That's cool.
So it was pretty fun.
So who won, the Bears or the Bees?
I think I won, if I remember right. So you can give cards to other players. My wife thought she was all funny. She gave me a card. That card ended up having a wild on it, which allowed me to double up my turn and play 2 cards, and I was able to discard. So
nice.
She really did not like that. So
Oops.
But I'm really excited how my year has started. So getting some plays in. So and Saturdays have been really good.
Yeah, Saturday was. I mean, we got to play. We played a total.
We killed
of
yourself
5.
a shame.
No, we did not. We put it. we did some damage though.
Nice.
Of the like 5 titles that we played, 3 of them were off of my shelf of shame.
Cool.
And we played a total of 6 plays. I mean, World Championship Russian Roulette was the only one that we repeated, and Carnival of Monsters was the only one that wasn't new to me. On Tour isn't on my shelf, but it was still a new game to me, and that was really cool. Another one that came off of my shelf of shame was Valhalla, and that I really, really liked that game.
I heard, is that the bag building one?
No, so it's very much a dice chucker.
Okay.
Kind of the gist is you are building a team of Vikings. You have like 4 slots on your team. When it's your turn, you can either play 1 Viking to your team or 2 Vikings to your team if their weapons don't total up to 3 or less. You can attack someone, or you can draw 2 cards, keep 1 and discard 1, and then the second piece of your turn is you draw 2 cards and keep 1, discard 1. When you're attacking, you just pick whoever you're going for, you roll your dice, and then you assign, like each of the characters has different weapons, which are on the faces of the dice.
Okay.
So you roll them, and then you see who you can activate and send after them. As the attacker, if you win, you get to send your guys to Valhalla, which is your end game scoring.
Which is kind of cool because it's not like you live. It's not like however long you can live. It's like, I'm going to send my Vikings. They're going to die in battle, and I'm going to send them to Valhalla.
They die gloriously in Valhalla. And what is it? Once the deck runs out, because you've got 120 card main deck that everyone's drawing from. So once the deck runs out, or so when you lose a battle, you lose one of your colored shields.
Okay.
And everyone has 4 of them. So when someone runs out of all their shields, or the deck runs out, that triggers endgame. Everyone gets 1 more turn, and then there's Ragnarok, where everyone gets a free roll to see if they can activate their last remaining Vikings and send them to Valhalla.
Cool.
You total up the scores at the end. Pretty light. There's a whole bunch of expansions. This was a Kickstarter game that was shipped.
I really regret not backing because I did want to back it. Like, it was there, and I went back over and over again.
I think Zach backed it. I obviously did.
Yeah.
When we were looking at it,
and I can't remember why I didn't. I think that you guys were back, and I don't remember. It might have been timing, but
yeah, I'm not sure. But I remember Zach kind of going, "Hey, it's dice. Maybe it'll be like, maybe we'll get our like Dice Masters fix." After playing it, if that game would have came out 2 years ago, that is like exactly what it would have been.
Yeah.
That game would have been our Dice Masters fix. At this point, I'm over Dice Masters. I really don't care.
Right.
But it does have, and it's not like it's a similar
I would like
game.
some blind packs for it, though. That'd be cool.
You would like blind packs for everything, crackhead. But it does have a similar feel, but it's more chaotic. I mean, we played a 6-player game, and it was like, on this turn I'm going to attack Russ, and on the next turn I'm going to attack Tyler, and then
that's cool.
Well, and you do have a
you
Jarl.
can't attack anyone that doesn't have any Vikings left. So if you're getting bullied by everyone, your guys end up dying, and then you just don't get. Like, you can't be attacked. Like, there's no glory in attacking someone who's defenseless.
Right.
It's very, like, for being a bunch of really simple simple mechanics, it's still fairly thematic. And everyone has a Jarl, like Russ was saying.
So my play was terrible. Literally terrible, and I still enjoyed the game because once I figured out my Jarl, the first Viking that I played completely nerfed that because he was pretty powerful and I couldn't activate him.
So your Jarl has like a special ability.
Yeah.
So for mine, there's one side of each or of the battle dice that is an X that's useless. And so everyone has 6 basic dice to roll, and from there you assign them to your guys. If you want to reroll, you have to discard one of the dice, and then you can reroll as many of them as you want. And if you want to reroll from those 5, you have to discard another one. So you're losing your total resources to try and refine the remaining ones, you know?
I like that.
My Jarl, if I rolled the X's, I could reroll for free. I could reroll the X's until it was a weapon. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get the weapon that I want, which happened more than I felt like it should have. I was like, cool, I got the free reroll Jarl. Sweet, I'm going to be... No, it was not like that easy. It was still pretty sweet. It was, but it was not like I was like, I've got a huge advantage. Yeah. Not the case. Yeah. But it seemed like all the Jarls were pretty well balanced. Like there was one that was like, or there was a couple different versions of like, the weapons are, there's a spear, there's an axe, there's a sword, there's a bow, and there's a shield. And then there's the axe. Those are your 6 sides. And there was a couple of the Jarls that it was like, if you roll a axe, you can flip it to the other side or flip it to whatever side you want, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a couple of the different versions of that, but it seemed like they were all pretty well balanced and useful. I don't know what Russ did, but he bitched about
actually
it a lot.
Awesome. Well, it was actually my Jarl was
not like
awesome,
him.
and I would like to play it again. So I approached the first round thing, and I want the biggest army, so I wanted 4. So I spent a few turns getting set up pretty good with strong guys. My Jarl was, if I had no Vikings in the field, I could draw one at random, like from the pile, and add it to my army, and then, which was a free action. So I could have every time taken that, added it, fought, put it, like hopefully win, and then
Holy
add it.
shit, you played that horribly.
Right?
Okay,
that's why I was bitching.
Because
the first guy I had was so strong, it took 5 dice to activate him.
And they're
thinking,
all specific
that was awesome.
dice.
Yeah.
And you only have 6 dice, so pretty much any reroll would hurt me. That's why I was trying to kill him so bad. But he was worth 4 points, so the more powerful they are, the more... But see, I wanted... Like, my Jarl was awesome. I just misplayed him.
Yeah.
And that's why I could tell the game was awesome. I want to take one, play it, attack.
I never heard what your Jarl actually did. I just know that you were going... I can't use my Jarl. I screwed myself. And you did a lot of bitching. And I was like going, well, whatever. Yeah, no, I see why now. Your Jarl sounded like it was awesome.
Yeah.
And you just totally screwed up.
And it wasn't even that it was lost. It was like, I have this awesome ability that I just want to try to make it work. So I kind of want to take that one again next time.
Yeah, I definitely want to play that again. I did realize when I was... within the box, there was a bunch of the expansions that were unlocked by Kickstarter.
That was probably the hardest thing we had about getting that game going was there was so much content. It was trying to figure out what was
there's
what.
all these shrink wrap decks that have like a letter and like a word on them, and it's like, what is this one? And Jared's like flipping through this thing, going, no, not that one. And Ben's just opening stuff, and he was like, all right, here you go. And Jared's like, we're not using that. Like, we're not doing expansions yet. Like, it was a little bit chaotic just because there's so many little cellophane wrapped decks, and they all look, to the untrained eye, they all look the same. And then in putting everything away, I realized that in the shipping process or in the packing process, I ended up not getting one of the expansions and instead got 2 copies of a different one. So I've contacted whatever the game company is. I want to say it's Go On Board or something like that. But
yeah,
I contacted them, and hopefully I'll hear back from them soon. I mean, that was last night.
Nice.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah, well, I definitely want all of the expansions. Then I want to try all of them. And there's like 4 or 5 different play variants. And reading through the book last night, like they all sound enjoyable in different ways. There's also like I have 3 really cool minis that came with the game.
You had me at Vikings.
Yeah, I know, right?
But aside from that, speaking of having to deal with board game companies, my son got. There's a game called Dr. Eureka where you're trying to figure out all the little things. Well, they have another one, kind of a sequel to it, and it's Dr. Beaker, and it comes with these little colored marbles. And I thought that we were missing one, but after I had sent the email to
Your dog ate it.
game company, my son goes, "Oh no, Dad, I saw you drop that one." And so I ran into my room and he's like, "Oh, it's right there." And sure enough, there it is. So I had to, quickly within 5 minutes send him another email saying, "Hey, sorry, Blue Orange, this is my bad. I just dropped it. My son spotted it, and thanks for making a cool game or whatever." 2 days later, I had 4 new marbles sent to my door because they just were as thorough as they were with the first email, that they just ended up sending it. So shout out to Blue Orange because they were on top of things.
I like their games.
That's pretty
I have a few
awesome.
of their games that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I was 2 of the decks that got opened that didn't need to be opened were the 2 that are the same, and I was like, oh, I could just if they weren't open, I could just send them the cellophane wrapped copy, second copy. I don't know. The game box and all the components were on the other end of the table from me, so it was like, all right, well, whatever.
And that's
it's
a table you
now.
can't just reach
So
over.
it's an expansion that if I bought the game, I could use the.
Yeah, if it's not in there, I mean, unless they ask me to send it to them, in which
Yeah.
case I totally will, because I want the one that I don't have.
Sure.
But yeah, if I end up with it, what I'm kind of hoping is maybe
Maybe Zach had the opposite.
maybe it's just like serendipitous enough that Zach got my Valkyries and I got his Champions of Midgard, and we can trade.
That's awesome.
I do not see that being the case. That is like extremely unlikely, but it would be neat, and I do want those Valkyries.
We played another one that we'll talk about, I'm sure, later in the game.
That goes
I really
into
enjoyed.
our big discussion topic.
Nice. I ended up with gaining so many new games for Christmas. I didn't get enough off my shelf of shame yet. Merlin was one of the only ones, and then Codenames, but I decided, why the hell not? Let's just go add more. So I went down to Demolition, and with some extra stuff that I had, I ended up getting Lisboa.
That's a nice, light, easy family play.
Super quick.
Right?
Just easy going. It's only 4.54 on the weight scale, but the only reason I bring it up, I haven't pinned down the rules yet. It's only been 2 days, but the thing I wanted to bring up is that they included spare parts in their game. They just had with each color they had an extra meeple and an extra house. And then of all the regular resource cubes, they gave one of each of the colors of that. And I thought, that is something that I wish more companies would consider doing.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Especially with a game that has that many components. I mean,
Is there some components in there?
There's, I think 3 or 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
But
The board, a dice, and maybe some cards.
Yeah.
that
no
that
dice.
looks like that looks like it's pastel spreadsheet the game.
Yeah. The artwork's actually pretty vibrant in person.
Yeah.
And it's really nice.
I know some people have complained about it. I like it.
I've been enjoying a lot of Euros, so I'm down to play. I'm kind of sad that Euro Sunday didn't get to happen this week because
Me
Alex
too.
is sick. I'm hoping that you're feeling better when you're listening to this, Alex. But I recently bought Pipeline. You
nice.
say that you
my
didn't.
gosh.
You say that
I'm
you
kind of
didn't.
glad
get
we
enough,
didn't play that, because here's the thing: that store still has 2 copies. I think about it probably more every day about just going to pick it up, but I know that game isn't gonna. I'm probably not gonna play it with other groups. From what I know about that game.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really crunchy Euro. But so you were saying that you didn't get enough off of your shelf of shame. I actually felt like I got 3 games, right? 3 games off of my shelf of shame. Felt great about it. I added Pipeline to it on Thursday or Friday. So it was before we played, before I got stuff off my shelf of shame, I was adding to it. And then I also still am waiting for Sanctum and Land, Air, and Sea, or whatever it is. Not the Heroes version, not the terrible game. The good little card game.
I added a bunch to mine on Saturday too.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. You had a whole stack of games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I got an email today of the Parks replacement, so I'll let you know what that was.
Yeah, that'd
From
be nice.
Keymaster, I got an email. Your package is on the way. I was like, wait, what am I getting from Keymaster? I don't remember ordering anything. And then I remembered it was the
replacements.
I was all excited. I was getting another game. Maybe I had ordered Campy Creatures and not remember or something.
Yeah.
It's one of your ambient orders.
Yeah.
Between how much I've been loving Brass and...
which I still need to play.
Yeah, you do. You really do. It's so good. Between that and playing A Study in Emerald finally is the other deck builder that we played the other night. Got on a Martin Wallace kick and started looking. I was like, what else? What am I missing? What else do I need? And I ended up ordering Wildlands because it's fairly cheap and it looks neat.
Demo has one of his older ones in their discount section.
Oh, yeah?
I don't remember the name of it. I'll look it up after this.
There's a large list I was looking. I know.
Yeah, he's been designing games for like 25 years.
Is it Via Nebula? Because I know Via Nebula,
no.
I've had my eyes on a lot because a lot of local stores must have had a lot of copies.
It's like a fantasy-themed thing.
They were on discount. Now I really want to get it because I've like some Martin Wallace. I really like Australia. Like, really
I really need to play that one. I feel like that one will probably be my favorite train game.
Yeah. It's my favorite farming game.
The artwork of it, I want to say, kind of reminded me of Inish.
Okay.
But it was a fantasy themed thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swords and Shield.
I know that in my looking at Wildlands and researching it and trying to find something that was going to be a red flag for me. So I remember when the game came out, it looked really cool. I was kind of excited. It got some initial reviews that weren't great, and I heard some word of mouth that it wasn't great. That was a full year ago plus now, possibly. And Jared was saying that he tried it out at SaltCon like 2 years ago, and I want to say that he was able to play it before it was actually released.
See, but Wildlands, and then there was something else that was Drift or something that was released at the same time that I confused, so I can't remember.
Yeah. But I remember Wildlands just it had a lot of buzz because it was a Martin Wallace miniatures skirmish game with card based rather than dice, And so I was like, yeah, neat. And then it got initial reviews, and I think that what it is people were expecting it to be heavier. I think people were expecting Martin Wallace's take on Warhammer. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it's just not that. It's a lot more streamlined. It plays fairly quick. It's got a fairly simple rule set, but there's a lot of strategic depth to it. And looking at it again, both with the changes that I've had as a gamer and my tastes and all of that over the time since it was released, along with literally looking for the problems. I was trying to find the cons. What are the negatives? I'd looking to check my negative box for my 5 positive boxes.
Right.
I couldn't find a negative aside from some people don't like it. And that to me, unless I really, really know someone's tastes and they can articulate that they don't like something that I also wouldn't like, I don't you not liking a game doesn't really mean shit to me because
it's not always a negative thing. I know there's reviewers that I watch.
Yeah.
That I enjoy the entertainment side of what they provide, but my taste with games doesn't always align with theirs. So if they explain why they don't like a game, sometimes that is I will like that because of the reasons why you don't like it.
That's one of the things that I appreciate about Shut Up and Sit Down and Tom Vassell. I regularly disagree with both of those, but those are two of the most reliable review resources for me because they break it down in such a way that while they're going, I didn't like this, 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 and this, they explain those things well enough that I go, I would love those. Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah.
I don't care that you hate it. That sounds awesome, So people kind of going, I just didn't like it. That's not going to be a negative for me. And that was the worst that I could find at this point. So I was like, screw it. I'll just order it.
So it passed the 5-1.
I can't remember. Have you played Teotihuacan?
No.
We need to play that.
Yes.
I know it. Oh, and then I got Zulkan.
Yeah.
Zulkan.
Do you have to say it 4 times?
I can't. Or I don't know if the T is silent. I don't know if the Z is silent. So if I pronounce it as many times as possible, kind of like when I type Teotihuacan, it's TEO and then whatever I want to put. And you guys know what I'm talking about.
So the way that you said Zolkin a bunch of times, total side story, not related to games at all, just a hilarious thing that happened. So one of my coworkers is named Sean, and we have a similar position, which includes handing our phone numbers out to a lot of people, and we both have work phones. So this guy calls him and is looking at like his name on the card that was left on his door, and he's like, and his name is Sean, spelled SEAN, and this guy goes, "Hi," and it's a voicemail. He's like, "So I'm looking for scene, I get scene." Like, he said it like 4 or 5 times. We're like, going, dude, why did he keep saying it? Like,
self-doubt.
Well, clearly, but it was like, dude, like, you're not changing it. Like, he wasn't taking a stab at anything else. He just said scene a bunch of times, and he was like, why? What is going on with this guy?
That's pretty funny because that's dude, like, I mean, Sean SEAN is common enough that you would think that.
Yeah, no, but he like. And it's one of those things that it's like, I mean, if he tried anything else, it would be like, okay, that makes sense. But he literally just said scene like 4 times and then said whatever it was that he had to say. And so now whenever Sean calls me, his name pops up on my caller ID. Scene? Like, there was like pauses. Like, the dude was really trying to, scene? It Scene? Like,
so how do you pronounce Zolkin? Is it
Zolkin? Yeah, I just go straight to the Z.
So,
see, the way
I'm
that
excited
I look at that,
and even though there's no minis, there are some sweet dials that I've seen some people. I saw one today that someone painted looking like stone.
Oh, that's the gear game.
Yeah,
with the gears. Yeah,
it's worker placement. The longer they stay on the gear, the more powerful they get. I'm really excited for it.
It looks cool.
Yeah, the way that I would pronounce that is I would pronounce it as Zolkin, but I would start with like my mouth in the T position, so it's Zolkin.
Yeah, that's probably right. But it's now on my shelf right now next to Teotihuacan because they're both there.
Yeah, that one I'm not, like, I don't even try to pronounce that one. That's just a weird set of letters.
Yeah.
I love that game a lot.
Yeah.
Well, should we get to building things?
Yeah.
Decks, specifically?
Yeah, throw a platform behind the house.
All right. Well, off we go.
Deck builders are easy to understand. Like, when we started the more complicated one, we were like, it's a deck builder. I said, so you take your cards, 10 cards, you draw 5, you buy new cards, you discard, you add more to it. There's your game. That's pretty close to most deck builders.
That sums up the basic deck building. You know, you've got your own personal. Well, no, that doesn't sum up a study in Emerald at all. But I mean, with a deck builder, you've got your personal supply of cards, and you are adding to it, sometimes taking away from it, via some sort of market.
Right.
And like there's the fixed market games like Aeon's End. I believe Dominion has a fixed market.
Yeah.
There's the random like giant stack of cards, and then you flip over like 4 or 5 of them, like Hero Realms, Star Realms, Terrors of London, Marvel Legendary. Like there's a ton of them that are like that. And then you're just adding to your deck. You draw your cards, you play them, you get more cards, you do whatever the thing is. If you're attacking someone, you might be doing damage to them or whatever. And then once you've drawn through your deck, you shuffle up your personal discard, and that becomes your deck again. Or in the case of Aeon's End, you just flip it over because it matters what order you play stuff in. That is the basic framework of deck building.
Right.
Without having a computer in front of me like Tyler has, I did that all.
We're gonna get some trivia on this one.
Well, that's awesome, because the only thing I had written at this point was, what is a deck building game? So I didn't even have to ask the damn question. You guys just nailed it
out of the park. We got it.
And honestly, it was better than the description that was on BGG too. So
this is an interesting one for me because I really enjoy deck builders. There are some that in the store that I've been interested in, but I'm like, I have enough deck builders. When I went to look at straight up deck builders for this, I don't own near as many as I thought. So
Yeah, neither do I.
I may be purchasing some.
Yeah, he's
I get
gonna
one
be
tomorrow.
purchasing some.
The pioneer of deck builders, like you mentioned already, is Dominion.
You didn't ask us?
And that one, it's the one that there's actually older ones,
Yeah,
and
I was gonna
I'll
say-
do trivia with those.
Regardless of where it falls in the line of them like being invented and stuff,
Right.
that's the
Godfather. And that
the
stands
Air
up a
Bunnies,
lot.
Lords
Yeah.
of Waterdeep
Yeah.
of deck builders. That's the one that people always, what's a good, like, I want to try out deck building. What's a good one? People like 9 times out of 10, Dominion.
Yeah.
And
Have
I
you-
go, why?
So
Have you played it?
I haven't.
no, none of us have.
I
And
have, and it was...
You did?
Yeah, I played it a long time ago. It's not a bad game.
Right.
It's just...
That's always a good way to start.
It's just...
Ringing
Blah.
endorsement.
Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just was... Blah.
The artwork seems kind of
Yeah.
pastel and a little bit hit or miss. One thing I wanted to point out that I've been doing my research is, interestingly enough, one name in the list of artists that have contributed to that game is our neighbor, Ryan Lockett.
Yeah.
He actually did some art for it. So I wonder, what expansion he may have contributed to, because I'm sure that one is a little bit prettier than the rest.
It's... I don't know how to explain it. It is very much like Lords of Waterdeep is for worker placement. Just not a lot there. Like, if you like straight up simple deck builders,
Yeah,
that's it.
If you
Where
like,
literally,
if you like the
all you
mechanic-
like to do is purchase victory points and put them in your deck. That was kind of my experience.
Okay.
And gaining more cards to give you those cards to give you victory points in your deck.
Yeah.
Not bad, but for me, I like that to be the main thing of a bigger game.
Right. Something more to it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
use that as the base level and then build onto it. So before we get too far or move on from this game, I do have one trivia question for you guys. And the question is, how many expansions do you think there are for Dominion?
I know this answer,
I
but
want
I
a
can't
joke
remember.
answer and say like 976 or something like that. But honestly, my for real answer, I'm going to go 43.
I want to say, are you just looking at BGG expansions? So you're including all the promos.
As far as what
Because BGG, they will include the promos
yeah.
as an expansion.
Yeah,
so
that's a fair possibility.
I don't know well enough to go through and say,
right.
yeah.
I will then say 75.
What is it with Kenneth being as close as he is to this shit?
He's a
It's
cheater.
44.
He's
No
a cheater.
shit.
You're a cheater. You just looked
No,
on your
if
phone.
I was
you
cheating,
looked on
I would
your
have
phone.
said 44. Why would I cheat and be wrong?
Because you don't want to be right on. You want to be, a
No,
little
I
under.
would want to be right on.
Whatever.
I would absolutely want to be right on. If I was cheating, that's what I would have done. I would have definitely been right on. You can count. Think about it.
I think they're still coming out with them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's just 44 today.
I know Zach really enjoys that game. It has a very big following.
Yeah.
A lot of non-gamers that I've interacted with, or the casual gamers that I've talked to at work here and there before I worked at an actual board game place, they talked about that
I
game
work at a board
quite
game
a bit.
place. Ugh, we hear that all the
Russ,
time.
so do you. You
know
work
what?
from home.
I'm not I'm not giving you any more resin. Just kidding. I have way too much of it. So, aside from Dominion, there are a handful, and Dominion came out in 2008, which isn't that long ago. I mean, it's more than
that's-
10 years, but
That's forever in board game years,
It
though, man.
definitely
That is
is.
so long from right now where board games are at.
there's been, roughly since then, there's been about 200 additions to the deck building genre.
So how many expansions does Legendary have?
I have no idea. The bird might know.
Any? No, I don't think Wingspan is a deck builder. It's a tableau builder, maybe. So, any guesses on that? Because that's another one that just like keeps coming out. And then there's the ones that are hard to find that people
Are you talking expansions or standalone versions that just keep...
Expansions. Like if you look at BGG, Marvel Legendary, and then go down expansions.
Oh, I have no idea. I'd say at least a dozen.
How many do you own?
I own, and I haven't bought one in a very long time. I probably own 8. I'm gonna say that they're probably north of 20 now. I'm gonna say 24. Look it up. Hit me with
28.
Is it 28?
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Yeah,
See, because I think deck builders are the easiest expandable games.
Yeah, you just add a deck of cards or half a deck.
Which is also
they're also arguably
down.
the most necessary to expand.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
Especially
to change
something
it up.
Especially something like Legendary, where the deck is composed of, off the top of my head, it's like 5 heroes, and then you've got a villain deck of like a main villain, their specific goons, and then like 2 other sets of goons or something like that.
For such simple games, they are not easy to set up.
No.
Set up for some of the deck builders that I have that I really enjoy. Setup is not easy.
Yeah. So by the very nature of that being the way, you set up with 5 heroes, there's only so many combos that are going to be in the base box. And I mean, depending on your own like attention span, like you can see how exactly Spider-Man works with every other guy in the main box. Or you end up playing Spider-Man once and you go, all right, I want to play with someone else. All right, I've played with Wolverine. I want to play with someone else.
Yeah.
And then you need to get those expansions and get, and I've defeated Magneto. Now I want to defeat someone else. I've defeated Ultron. I've defeated MODOK. I want to keep defeating these new guys. So like it's very much it kind of, you need the expansions to keep the game going.
Yeah.
With Aeon's End, there's the static market that it's like, all right, you can. I've gotten to where I prefer to just do it either random or semi-random. So I'm trying to puzzle my way through actually beating the guy.
Right.
But if you want to you can set up your market to min-max your character abilities and stuff like that, or specifically to go after whatever your nemesis weaknesses are and stuff.
I'm kind of surprised that nobody has created a CCG deck builder. I know that would have some problems too, but it kind of seems like it could be something that you could do. I know like Hero Realms does packs where you can get, but they're not random. And I know a lot of players would be like, well, I have to get everything, and they wouldn't like the blind packs. But
the biggest problem that I see, because I like where you're going, I like that idea, I do. The problem is to sustain a CCG, it requires a competitive gaming scene.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Do you, me and you, we each sit down with 3 booster packs, we mash them together, and then we blindly distribute them when we're done? I mean, that's where I see the problem. But I like that idea. It could be a lot of fun.
I was thinking using, Magic the Gathering with the catalog you've got there. I wonder if there's a way to create a deck building type of a thing with the cards that are already there. I mean, the way that, Commander works, you buy your Commander and then there's a tax on top of that. But could there be, rather than drawing from a deck, could you have just lands that you're drawing from at first? And then, everybody's buying from a market, and then just instead of going with the required land types, you can just use land as mana the same way that Hearthstone uses it, and then just build up from there. I don't know how well it would work, but I think it might be kind of a fun thing to do, and go Commander style and have it be everybody on everybody.
Yeah, I'm down with trying that. We can figure something out,
right?
But deck builders are really fun. You had more questions for us on them?
I have a couple. We'll do the top 10 towards the end of this, but with Dominion, and that was designed by Donald X. Vaccarino, who his name sounds like a Street Fighter character.
Yeah, he's in the third expansion for Legendary.
Right? No wonder. It's like a tip of the cap to him being a pioneer. But with games like Dominion and Legendary, it spawned off quite a few different types and different variations on deck building themselves. So what are just a couple of your favorite deck builders or variations on deck building? I mean, there are some people that like what's going on with Clank, but they don't like the game itself. They like the idea of it, but for an example, for me, I think Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle is awesome because
totally forgot to write that one down. They've got that a lot. That one's awesome.
And we're only on game 3. And I love opening the boxes, having that pseudo legacy element to it.
The best part about get enough of that with the Harry Potter is that kind of legendary or that legacy type idea is it's Harry Potter, so it's obviously gonna, I think, appeal to a younger audience.
Yeah.
And the way they teach that game, basically by each game adding more stuff, by the time you get to say the expansion or even like game 7, it's a difficult puzzle of a game. Like it turns in from like a 20-30 minute game to like a 2-hour like slog fest to try to beat the enemies,
right?
Which we very much enjoy. My sister actually gave me the expansion because she's like, it's too hard. Like I don't like it. So I love how it's done. And I love the co-op feel. I love the market. Harry Potter's a good one.
I have to agree. That one is one that I'd like to tear through the rest of with my family. And if I can't do that, it seems like it's feasible enough to go through and tear through it solo.
Yeah.
With multiple characters or whatever.
I am so sad that game is Harry Potter. Because I hear so many good things about it.
Do you like Toy Story?
I could not care any less about Harry Potter if I tried.
Do you like Toy Story?
A lot more than Harry Potter.
Because they just reskinned it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I'm interested to try it out because I've heard so much good about the Harry Potter one. But I just look at it and it's like, the inherent problem with things that are based on an IP. I am going to be on the outside looking in.
Right.
You guys are going to be speaking gibberish. I'm going to be going, I don't know what that means. Those are made up words. I don't care if you're reading what it says on the paper. That's not real. It's gibberish to me.
Right.
I don't understand. So I'd be like very much on the outside looking in, and that's distinctly kept me away from that game.
So my hands down favorite basic deck builder with a little added to it is Trains. I ended up getting it in a trade after reading about it because I'd seen it in the store a ton. I'd seen it in the store on clearance. By that box, I had no idea it was a deck builder.
No, I didn't notice either.
Zero interest in it. Even at like $10, I was like, Trains, no thank you. And then I played it, and it has a map. It's basic deck builder. You have a market. You have your cards. You take 5 cards. You buy cards. You add them, and then you take those cards, allow you to build routes on a map. The thing that I love about it, as simple as that sounds, is when you build something, when you build a station or a tracks, you have to take waste into your deck. Where other deck builders, for the most part, you start with a few bland cards that you probably want to get rid of. Trains actively adds terrible cards to your hand that you have to take turns to get rid of those. Okay. So it's sure you're just adding cards, but you know what? I'm building to try to win, right? You're building all your stuff so fast that now all of a sudden my deck has a bunch of waste in it. I have to take turns to discard my waste. So I love what it does to add to the board to build the tracks, but that mechanism of adding terrible cards to your hand that you have to spend strategic turns to get rid of that as simple as that sounds, I love what that adds, and that's why it's kind of my quintessential like favorite deck builder theme. I don't love train themes, but like it's a very good mechanical game. So
From what you said, it actually has encouraged me to want to play it
yeah,
based on your excitement, but I still don't think that if I saw it on clearance that I'd be reaching to buy it just because it's so simple. It's so, it's trains. And that's it.
yeah.
What about you, Kenneth?
So I love deck builders, but I own like 8 or 10 deck builders, and I've got the Guar one coming.
Nice.
Which I'm always happy to bring it up because I think it's hilarious that it exists. The first one that I ever got into was Marvel Legendary, and that helped me get into Marvel Dice Masters. I want to say that I bought Legendary at the same time as like the Dice Masters starter kit. Tried to play Dice Masters. The rulebook was terrible. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. Played Legendary, and like one of the first times that I shuffled my deck and started drawing again, I was like, oh, that's what that was, but in a bag with dice.
Yeah.
And love Legendary. My wife really likes Legendary. We do not play Legendary anywhere near. Like I stopped buying the expansions because it got to where it was just so much of a chore to clean it up. My favorite deck builder is another one that I've gone bananas and gotten everything, and that one is, I've got a good organizer and stuff, so it's not quite as hard to set up, and it's also like I have an app that I can just randomly do it,
Right.
which helps, and that's Aeon's End. I've talked about Aeon's End many times, but because I've played so many deck builders and I like them so much, at this point a deck builder has to do something different.
Yeah.
So the thing with Aeon's End is that there's minimum randomness. Usually in a deck builder, you go through your deck, you shuffle it, and then you start again with it. With Aeon's End, the order in which you play things down, you just take your discard pile when you need to draw new cards and you run out. You just flip it over. So there's tactics from deck to deck. From the top to the bottom of your deck going both directions. There's tactics.
Right.
You can set up combos for later and all of that. There's
It's a
lot
very
more going
fun
on.
mechanic in games. City of Iron, similar. Deck building's a part of it, but that order is awesome. And Aeon, and I feel like it's picking up momentum.
Yeah,
like
well,
people seem to be liking it more and more.
There's 4 standalone versions of Aeon's End and another, I don't know, 6 or 8 small expansions. Like, Aeon's End is doing just fine.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think it's great. But Aeon's End especially got me starting to look at what deck builders do differently. So there's a few games that I have that I really like, and then there's a few that I've got that I haven't actually played that I got because I like deck builders. I like maybe the theme or whatever, and it does something different. The first one that comes to mind in that category would be the Scott Pilgrim versus the World deck builder.
Okay.
I haven't played it yet. I've heard that it's not that good, but the cards are double-sided. So there's stuff on both sides of the card, which seems so strange for me.
Double-sided front and back, not top and
Yes,
bottom.
front and back. So the cards like do different things by the way you set them down, and obviously like that limits how much information is hidden. So I haven't played it yet. One of these days I want to. I've heard that it's not great, but it does something very different from other deck builders. Another one that does something that seems different to me is, and that I haven't played yet, that I have, of course, is
Ding.
Xenoshift. So Xenoshift is a deck builder with like a tower defense element to it. That's cool. And that's kind of where I'm at with deck builders in general, is like, what else is it doing? The Dark Souls deck building game, I love it. It is great. I recently just picked up the second expansion for it. I've yet to sleeve it and play with it, but with that one, you've got 2 boards, one for your enemies, and there's 6 spaces, and then there's one for your character, and there's 6 spaces. And you're moving around, and it's like different attacks attack different places on each board. So you're like trying to be in the spot for maximum damage for you without, while trying to dodge, and it conveys the feel of Dark Souls a lot better than the beautiful board game that they made. But there's another one that's like coming from Kickstarter called Ignite, that is a miniature skirmish game with a deck building element. But that's the big thing to me, is like, what else are you doing? And that's kind of where I'm at with deck builders. Having one that is a deck builder at all with Gwar in it is something that I'm willing to play.
Right.
Yeah. The 2 games that I have that are nothing more than cards, that are deck builders, are DC Deck Builder, which I know some people don't like. I quite like it. It's very
that one I've heard I've heard only really good or really bad. Like it seems like it's a pretty polarizing game.
Yeah,
which tells me that like if you like it, you're gonna like it a lot.
Yeah,
it's very. I think it's somewhat thematic because it's very swingy. It's like you do a lot of things. You have the currency that you can use to buy cards. I very much like it. It's an easy one to teach people deck builders. Like Trains is pretty easy, but there's some other stuff. Like I said, you add to the deck. So trying to teach people to get rid of cards, but
with DC it's more approachable because people might know that IP
and it's
more than just
really quick
Trains.
to set up for as far as deck builders go. Like
that's also helpful.
It's really quick to set up. And then Hero Realms is the other one that's kind of in that same vein for me.
Hero Realms for me was like, that might have been the one that really got me started on, just like opened my eyes to the vast world of deck builders. Because I want to say before that, the only deck builder that I had played was Legendary. There may have been like one other one that is not coming to mind. But playing Hero Realms, it was like, oh, this small box with, what is it, like 200 cards or something like that, or less in the core. And it was like, you're fighting each other. You're not like teaming up in co-op fighting a boss. It was like, it played quick. It was easy to set up. And I was like, this is great. Like that was the first deck builder that really hurt Legendary for me, because it was like, I can get all the fun out of a deck builder, build those combos, and I don't have to spend like 48 minutes setting it up and another hour and a half putting it away.
Definitely.
Well, and the price point, $20.
Oh yeah, and the price point, right?
I really like the campaign. I'm not very far in the campaign, but I like what they added there.
Yeah, I've played a couple of the things with the campaign. The character packs are really cool. The boss packs are really cool. Like the fact that there's multiple different starting decks. In the base game, everyone starts with the same stuff, but with the character packs, that gives you a different starting point and kind of encourages you to go in a different direction. And that's like just brilliant. That is the closest that we have to the CCG format,
right,
in a deck builder.
Somewhat of a LCG, I think.
Yeah, it ends up being more like...
It kind of is, because they'll add stuff to it. I think there was another Kickstarter with more stuff.
Yeah, there definitely was.
So
should be coming sometime in the next couple of months.
Well, Hero Realms sounds somewhat similar to one of the first ones that I ever played, and that's Star Realms.
Same thing.
Based off the same system
and
same people.
I loved it for the same reasons that you just, all the same points that you just made. Is that it was, super cheap at $20. The setup took no time at all. It was easy enough that even when my son was younger, at like 6 years old, he understood, and the iconography wasn't overbearing. It was all really intuitive and quick and all that. It just, kind of lost its shininess.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you probably didn't buy expansions. You saw everything that was in the box a bunch of times and you kind of got over it.
I have 4 expansions.
Do you?
I just didn't have anybody to play with. And so after playing solo a couple of times, it just lost, all of that. But the one that stands out for me now which is very similar to Star Realms in the structure of the game, is Shards of Infinity, which has a little bit more text and more to it, and a bit more of a
right
system. A different system where with the mercenary cards that you're talking about, they are a really nice, unique take on it, where you can buy it and then use it immediately, but it's gone from the game for the rest of the time. I mean, instead of having to wait for it to shuffle through and, show up in your deck and be recurring, you can use those things immediately, one shot, and then they're gone.
It's kind of amazing how simple something like that on a card. I want to say Hero Realms has something like that you can add it to the top when you purchase it. I'd have to remember. But anything that kind of jars that order, much like Aeon's End, where it's like how you play it.
Yeah.
Like, same concept of a deck builder, but manipulation of the cards, or like waste for trains. Like, you've got to add cards, or it's how you play the cards. Those things are simple rules that really alter and provide more depth to the deck builder.
Yeah.
I really enjoy those kind of things.
One of the games that I really wish, and I ought to give it another crack, especially after talking about deck builders, is Cthulhu Realms. I've got that one, and it's kind of got the silly, cartoony artwork. Yeah, it's the same guys.
Same guys.
But the game itself, a lot of the complaints were the iconography was confusing, and the execution of the symbology and the little things here and there was hard for people to follow and stay up on, and you were checking the rule book quite a bit, and it makes sense, but I think after a couple of plays it would be good.
How quick and easy you can read currency or icons, those kind of things.
Right.
One of my favorite, and we're going to get to where I'm going to start writing things up on some hidden gems. The problem that I'm facing is some of the hidden gems I have either new releases coming or Kickstarters coming, and then talking to the publishers, I need to time them a little bit. But one of them is Heroes of Tennefer, which is a co-op game. It's a deck builder. You only draw 3 cards, which is, earth-shattering.
That's not 5.
So,
or 7.
But you're going into dungeons, and you're collectively trying to beat a monster, and it reads really simple, but when you play it, it's not. I mean, it is, but there's more to it. It's like, okay, I'm doing this much damage. How much damage can you do? And so, we're all doing damage at the same time. If we don't kill the monsters in that dungeon, we get kicked out, and then the timer goes, and you only have so long to go before you can get to the final dungeon and beat the boss. So it's like this strategic race to get the cards that you need to, because every time you beat a monster, that turns into your new card.
I kind of like that.
So that's how you build your deck. Much in the same way as God of War uses a similar thing, because the cards, once you fight, the cards that the monster or the bad guys use in Gods of War, you each get to choose one of those, and then they add to your deck. So those two, where it's not just straight up purchase, but like either a benefit or result of combat, I really like that idea. So
yeah,
that kind of makes me think of like the Bloodborne card game, where it's not a deck builder, it's
deck management.
Well, it's a hand.
Great.
It's a hand builder. You only have the one hand of cards that you're slowly going through, and then you go to the Hunter's Dream, and you can add a card to it, and you get to draw your whole hand back up.
Right.
But you're limited to a hard cap of 7 cards. But that one very much has a deck builder feel with how much you're like, trading out and upgrading, and you can with that one you can definitely focus it more, I feel, than most deck builders, because even though the market is random, you're kind of either going ranged or melee. There's kind of a like gear strategy that you can go for, but the 2 main archetypes are either ranged or melee.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to focus on that and get those cards into your hand.
I feel like my love for deck builders kind of propelled into the love for those hand management type of games or card builders with Mystic Vale, where
Mystic Vale is such a cool, different spin on deck building.
Yeah, where it's like you have a limited number of cards, but those cards get better based on what you purchase.
Right.
Very, very simple game, right? Oh, I've got this. I can purchase that. Oh, now I got to add to my cards. And those kind of things where it's managing your increase or your deck getting better, your card getting better, your bag getting better for quacks, right?
Right.
In fact, when I teach quacks, if anyone's played a deck builder, I'm like, it's basically a deck builder in your bag.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, there's a very fine line between a deck builder and a bag builder.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I am excited to see is where the deck builder basic thing, the mechanic is going. Where is it going to flush out next?
That's one thing that has me excited about Ignite. That seems like a very different take. Something that has a miniatures, skirmish, combat game, deck builder.
Right.
And I'm not sure how much the deck builder element it plays in, but those were the big three things that they talked about.
Yeah.
And then the little daggers in the back for the damage.
Well, and even to throw back to one of the games that I've talked about in a previous episode is Dragon's Horde, and the way that they did that, and they incorporated that game with the backs of the cards are the currency of the different color of sheep, and then the front of the cards are the things that you're trying to buy or unlock or whatever. And so it's got that multi-purpose thing. It's sort of like the Scott Pilgrim that you were talking about, but not quite as, in depth as that one sounds.
Or possibly more in depth. I don't know. I haven't played.
One thing that I really enjoy about teaching deck builders is, and I do the same with quacks, is putting cards next to each other that help you, that benefit. So it's like, oh, if you're going to buy, for instance, in quacks, if you're going to buy red, buy pumpkins in the basic play in the first one. So if you're playing a deck builder, it's like this card and this card work well together to give you more, instead of them being overwhelmed with the market. Like, oh, there's 8 cards.
What do I
buy?
Yeah.
Right.
Help lead somebody to some synergy
really,
so that it can unlock their interest.
I feel like deck builders have been a great tool to help people understand what games can provide. It's like, oh, you know what? This and this benefits this by this way. So it triggers kind of that idea of, wait, so these combos help me get what I want. Or just getting this may not seem like it's giving you victory points, but getting this assist allows you to get this longer term goal that's going to get you a bigger score.
Yeah.
For such a simple feeling mechanic, it is so diverse and it can be so rich strategically and rewarding feeling. And there's so many things you can do. I mean, there's a reason that I look for, like, it's a deck builder and
right.
And it's because there's so many different things that come after that word and. Or even if it's just a deck builder, but it does something different, I mean, Terrors of London, which is coming to your house because you won a thing on Facebook.
Yes, I did.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Colossal. Oh, yeah, Tyler tagged me. Thank you, sir.
I tagged Tyler.
This is the podcast at work.
The trifecta. But with Terrors of London, as you play characters, they have each one is like an affiliation. And there's like 4 different affiliations, and each card has its own affiliation, and then to the right, it's got one affiliation it's looking for, and to the left, it has a different affiliation it's looking for. And if you play the cards in such an order that you're putting, the blue guys look for red to their right, this is probably not the correct order. But off the top of my head, the blue guys are looking for red guys next to the right of them. So if you play a blue guy and then you play a red guy, you unlock another ability for each of them. And then if the red guy's looking for a white guy next to it, so if you play the white guy on the other side of the red guy, now you've got a third ability on that red guy and another ability on the white guy. And so you can chain some really cool stuff together with that. And you don't want, it's almost the opposite of like with Hero Realms. you're looking like if you want to really streamline your deck, you kind of want to go into one or maybe two colors. You want to stick to as many green cards as you can, or as many blue cards as you can, and kind of go for that one strategy with Terrors of London. You do that, and you are neutering your cards. You're taking away a ton of options. You want to be diverse so that when you shuffle it up, you're getting a better mix and spread in every hand, so that you can trigger more of those secondary abilities.
So one of the deck builders that I played recently in the last few months that has me really debating to go buy it, and all it is a basic deck builder with just cards, is the Cthulhu deck builder game. I really enjoyed that, and it's the use of the currency and what it does and the timing. Like they shift it
such
just
a different flow.
a little
it
bit.
Feels
that it's
totally
just,
different.
I don't know. I really enjoyed how that one worked.
Well, and it feels different than other co-op deck builders that I've played too.
Yeah.
It has almost more of a cooperative need. Like it's not just, all right, I'm going to do a thing and then you can do a thing and then you can do a thing. It's like, okay, no, I need to do this. Like there's a lot more on the floor strategy
we had
going
cards
on.
that helped each other. Like I could do stuff that really allowed Zach to benefit. Like we really helped each other a lot. And then the currency. If I don't spend this, I can shoot the monster, but I need to get this card to get better. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I love that push-pull.
That one, what's really cool, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things about it. The different abilities, how well they work together.
The large amount of cards.
Insane amount of cards. But one of the things that really stood out to me is it is fully co-op with like discussion encouraged. So it's hard enough to justify like, we're putting all our heads together to try and maximize every person's every card.
But at the same time, it doesn't feel impossible too, everybody's head together.
So Aeon's End is hard. Aeon's End is it is a hard deck builder game. And like I've seen people go, so is there a way to beat Aeon's End? I don't know. Like I've seen threads where, and it's like, yeah, you just got to kind of keep trying, try different markets against different guys, try different mages, you got to figure out essentially what the weakness is of your enemy and try the best way to exploit that, or build around the strength of your mage, and hopefully that works against your enemy. But with Aeon's End, you're like the table talk is limited. Like I can say, I'm going to do some damage, but you also, I can't say, I have these cards in my hand. That is not allowed as part of the table talk.
Right.
And you also like your turn order is the only truly random element that, I mean, there's a random deck for the enemy, their cards that come out, and then turn order is random. So really, even if you were talking about all the shit that you have in your hand, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get to use it, because maybe you get to go before I do and he gets to go before I do, and the opportunity isn't there by the time it comes back to me. So the fact that the Cthulhu game is hard enough that full cooperation, no hidden information, nothing held back, is encouraged, that's a pretty sweet spot for a co-op deck builder.
Yeah.
And I know the timing, I'm trying to remember, is a little off in the sense, do you attack first and then purchase? Or is it the other way? I know it's different. So that's all I remember is, and I really enjoyed that.
If I'm remembering correctly, you purchase stuff, and then the cards that you used for currency go to your discard right away, but the cards that you purchased go into your hand, and anything that you didn't use to purchase remains in your hand for the attack phase.
Yeah.
And it definitely felt different enough that it was like a little bit jarring those first couple of rounds. Yeah. But once you get the flow of it, it's a good flow to the game.
Yeah. See, and I kind of see, especially co-op deck builders, very much a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I approached the Harry Potter one. When you get to the harder ones, it's very much about what enemies are out, exploiting their weakness, exploiting your power, and then making sure you have the cards in and not rushing to it. And that's why some of the later Harry Potter example take longer, because you've got to keep them in check, which may mean that it's not going to be a fast result, but it'll work. Aeon's End, I think what is cool about the strategy is not only is it impact the order of play this turn, but next turn, right? So I have to think at 2 turns in that puzzle. Like, if I play this here, I'm not going to have that card till maybe the next turn. So I really enjoy that.
And there's also, I mean, the way that casting spells works is you play them onto so your turn, when it comes to you, the first thing you do is you have the option to fire off all of your spells that have been put into the breach slots. And then you take your turn and you add more spells to that breach. So those don't even get used. Like, you don't fire off your spells right away. I mean, there's some edge cases that defy that. But generally, everything you're doing is building up for the next turn. You're discarding in an order that's best going to benefit you when you see those cards again, in the order that's going to best synergize. And you're also trying to stack your breaches so that you can get maximum damage at the start of your next turn.
Yeah.
It's very much like just a planning ahead deck builder, and I love it. There's one deck builder that I own that I've heard is coming back to Kickstarter this year, allegedly, that I am going to, I know I'm going to back it. And it's one that I got a while ago, and it might have been the first game that I ever played solo. If not the first, it was probably the second. And I've actually only ever played it with another person one time, and it was with my youngest stepson, and it was a while ago, and it was not a smooth experience. And that's Apex
Predator?
Yeah. Or Apex Therapod.
Or Therapod, yeah.
That game is so cool. Like, the art is amazing.
Awesome.
It's a really, really fun, challenging solo. And then from what I remember, because it was, like I said, it was not a great, smooth experience playing with the kid. It's not always like planned aggression. Like, there's things that trigger that make you kind of fight each other while you're trying to, like, it's almost like, if I'm remembering it correctly, and there could be something that I'm getting wrong, thinking back on it, the thematic sense would be that, like, we're both Apex Theropods. This is my territory, and it overlaps your territory just a little bit. So it's not like it's a constant battle, but every now and then we're in the same spot and we got to fight. And it's rad. It's gorgeous. It's out of print. I could probably get a shitload of money for my copy.
Yeah, just sell it, and then you'll have enough for the...
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, and that game we played the other day is worth a pretty penny, too. Or I would probably be buying that because I very much enjoy A Study in Endworld.
Yeah, that one's awesome. But I'm excited to see. I really hope that Apex Therapod, I mean, with the first Kickstarter, I know they had a lot of problems, and that's why it's not widely available and stuff.
Right.
And why I don't have, like, any of the expansions or any of that. I really hope that they have a good, strong, successful campaign, and I hope that all the stuff that I don't have is there. And I also, so my copy, I need to sleeve it because some of the cards are just a little bit like a millimeter off from other ones, which would be fine until you're, building a deck and trying to shuffle them, and they get shuffled differently, and it's weird. That issue, I would love to see that one solved too. But I'm really excited. I hope that the rumors are absolutely true. I mean, I've seen it from, I have no reason to question the sources or anything like that, but it's not like I talked to the creator either.
Sure.
But I'm really hoping to see that one hit Kickstarter and just do awesome this year.
So I will say, as much as I love deck building, the mechanic of deck building, just throwing deck building into a game is not great.
No,
I mean, that's that way with all mechanics. If I feel like there's some games that are developed that are pretty cool, and they just add a ton of mechanics. It's not always the best.
Are you saying you didn't like the deck building phase of Court of the Dead?
I was
Actually,
wondering if that
I
was going to
enjoyed
come
Court
up.
of the Dead.
Actually,
but
was there a deck building phase to that one? I don't
I
think there
honestly
was.
don't
but there was
remember,
just
but I'm
so
going to
many
think that there
mechanics.
is. But I do like games if the deck building isn't an aspect to it. Because I've heard that A Study in Emerald is a deck builder. I guess. Yes, it is. But
It
there's-
absolutely is, but it's
there's
also
so much more to it that
it's a deck builder. It's
Yeah.
a social deduction game. It is. It's like a risk management game.
So is it everything that you thought it was going to be as far as the player
there's-
interaction?
There's enough going on that I really want to play it again. I feel like it's one of those games that any given group, your first play is going to be rocky because
Okay.
so it's you're given a role, and there's only two roles. There's the green guys and the pink guys. But there's some like one of them is like what, loyalists and resistance or something like
Yeah.
that. But for me personally, the names of them seemed
it
like
added confusion.
yeah, like I felt like they were named almost the opposite. Like
Yeah.
the loyalists are the green faction, and everything that I was seeing, like loyalist, green is green versus pink. I was going. So the loyalists are the guys that are trying to help humanity. They want to fight the monsters. That's not the case. It's the resistance that wants to fight the monsters. And I almost want to say it's not the resistance, it's something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like it felt backwards to me, and it took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around the fact that I had the opposite faction that I thought I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it was kind of fun toward the end of the game, kind of looking around and going, I'm 90% sure that Russ is not on my team, even though at the start of the game I thought he was, but that's because I had them backwards at first.
Right.
So like I was right, but I was wrong. Figuring out when Jared attacked me, I realized that we were on the same team because of the way that he did it. What he did made me go, you just hit someone who's on your, like, that's going to cost you points at the end of the game. That's going to hurt you because you hurt me, and we're on the same team. And I know that, but I'm not going to say that out loud, and so it's up to 5 players.
Okay.
But there's 6 of those cards. You shuffle them up and you hand one out. So at 5 players, it's going to be 3-on-2, but you don't know which way it's going to be. So yeah, it's
There's a lot going on. And I will say this, I know you probably don't like the comparison. It very much to me felt like Richard the Lionheart with a few more things going on. That the play and understanding and using the tracks adds to it. There's more going on in A Study in Emerald that if you don't really get into that part of the game, I think it's still a good game. Richard the Lionheart, if you don't get into the whole tracks and trying to figure out who's on your team, it's not a fun game. A Study in Emerald, also understanding the bits and how we could have hindered. Like I won by quite a bit. I won only because my whole strategy to start from was go kill monsters. I didn't even know if that was the good strategy. So to say I won because I strategized would be a complete lie.
You happen to be on the team that was the strategy.
Right. I feel like that game needs a few plays to get to where you're comfortable enough to know, like, okay, I need to stop you from getting this card because you're on this team, and I need that card for. Like, there's a lot going on.
So you don't just have one market. Your market is divided into like 9 different cities. Each city has its own stack of like 7 cards. One of them is going to be an Elder God type monster. One of them is going to be that city, which will give you some resources. And then there's 5 cards that are out of this stack that ultimately we used, about half of the cards. So like there's some variability there. There's going to be some randomness, things that maybe you're hoping to see won't come out, and then things that you're worried might come out may not even be in the deck. There's
You have
Definitely.
investigators and influence. So one's a meeple, one's a square.
Mhm.
If you have investigators, you can fight the monsters or assassinate people. If you have influence, you can not purchase the card, but get the cards, like take the cards.
Yeah.
You add up both to see if you can do either.
Yeah.
So that's kind of strange. You count the number of bits to see if you can do it.
There's this area majority element where
Right.
like if me and you are both sitting on the same city and I want the card, I have to have more presence there. And that's going to be totaled between my investigator meeples and my influence tokens.
Okay.
And then if I have more, I buy them. You get whatever your influence was there back to your hand. My influence goes into limbo, and then I have to use other resources to get my influence back so that I can then distribute it around the board and do other stuff. There's a lot going on, and ultimately it's one of those games that after
It felt like we played
after a round or two, it clicks. The hardest
the
thing for me was
mechanics click.
Yeah,
the mechanics click. The strategy was like, I need another play to try to figure out
I feel
who's
like
on my team and that kind of stuff.
I feel like another play would really open up the various strategies, and it also, like, especially if you've got kind of the same group, I think it's a game that if I were to now take it and play with like some of the guys from work, and we would enjoy it, but you almost need like a meta, like
Right.
to where I could teach them and I would have fun, and by the end of it they'd get it and we'd have a good time. But if I play with the same group again, everything you do is going to be tipping me off, and I may be right or wrong. And like, where there is that element of social deduction, there's a version of maybe it would benefit me to act against my team archetype. So maybe someone on the opposing team will do something to help me rather than hinder me.
Right.
But you don't want to do too much of that, because then your team is going to be messing them up.
Sending the wrong signal.
And there's only one winner, but the team aspect has a
is
big influence.
Because the tracks, like the scoring was...
The scoring is difficult. Like, there's no version of explaining it to make it sound easy, because there's a lot going on, and it's a Martin Wallace deck builder with some area control, and hidden roles and social deduction. Like, it's a very, like,
you're going to gain points, lose points throughout the game. If your team loses, you lose points at the end of the game. If you kill someone on the wrong team, you lose points at the end. There's tons of going on.
If you're trying to get the monsters to come out and you kill a monster, you will lose those points at the end of the game.
Okay.
So it's very much, I will say this. I was playing it. I saw the aftermarket price, realized probably not going to be able to buy it. But totally understood why the game is not in production. But absolutely understand why there's a high market value for it.
Right.
Because it's a great game. But my heck, to keep that in production and keep it on shelves, I think they would lose money, because it's
dense.
It's unique and dense and hard, and you kind of need a group, like a play group. It's not like, oh, let's pull it off, I'll teach you how to play it. No, there's stuff going on.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder because I know that they cleaned up from first edition to second edition, and I have second edition. It makes me wonder.
Holy cow.
See, I've heard some people say that, like, the first edition is better. Like, straight up, it is the better game. They diluted it too much for the second edition, which makes me really wonder about the second edition, or about the first edition. I don't ever see me getting my hands on it unless maybe there's like a game library. But I'm thinking I might want to, like, download the rule book and just see, like, what the differences are. And it also makes me wonder if, Martin Wallace is big on refinement. Maybe second edition is going up because he's working on a third, because I've also never heard anything bad about the game. I've heard various podcasts. I've read people talking about it on, like, Reddit, Facebook. It is a loved game, in spite of how clunky and I mean, it feels aged. It hasn't aged as well as some other games.
It's not that old though.
No, but I mean, it's
Like
it's
he
like
said
we were talking
earlier,
about
in,
earlier.
in board game years.
In board game years, it being from like 2014, that's a long, or 2014 or 15 for second edition.
Yeah.
And the first edition was like 2010 or 2009. Like,
It's already at its midlife crisis.
those are old games now in the world that we live in the board game world that we live in.
So what would you say the optimal player count would be?
5.
You can't do any less than 5?
No, you could. I think that it would be fine at 4, but I really feel like it's a game that having an odd number, you know that there's going to be one more of one side, but you don't know which side it is.
Sure.
I feel like I wouldn't want to lose that if it was just a 4-player game, you're looking for one other person.
Okay.
No,
that makes sense.
That's less exciting to me.
Right.
Where with the 5, if you act one way and I go, all right, I think he's on my side. And Russ is acting way, okay, he's not on my side, but and then Kevin is doing something and I think he's with Russ. And then Jared, I don't know. Jared, I'm lost. I could go either way on him, and maybe I'm wrong somewhere. Like,
right.
Maybe I'm wrong about you, and you're actually, and maybe like you and Russ are flip flopped,
right?
And I've got it backwards.
See, I didn't think about any of that till the final turn. Just when I was just trying to assassinate someone, but before that, I was simply playing mechanics, and that's why I was like, "Ooh, I'd like to play this game where I can strategize a little bit."
Yeah.
Right.
So I really feel like it shines at 5. It makes me really, really want to play it again. And I also want to play Australia because Australia is set in the same world. It's another Martin Wallace game that came out like a year or two ago. And it's
a great game.
In the aftermath of it. Like the great old ones that are trying to be released and fought back in A Study in Emerald, they essentially get herded to Australia, and then the game Australia is essentially about living in that world in Australia. And,
that's cool.
And I really want to play that. And the fact that Australia seems like it was at least relatively successful, and second edition of A Study in Emerald is very hard to find, makes me wonder, maybe there's a third edition coming out that might be a little bit smoother even.
Well, it sounds like there's an old one trying to get out of Russ right now. Keeps having the throat
That's not
sounds.
me.
No? I'm pretty sure that's you.
Oh, that's weird because I don't think it's me. Maybe it is.
Maybe it's just an old one in the room.
Yeah.
Well, that is A Study in Emerald. And
is that the highest rated deck builder?
I was just about to say, why don't we see where it stands on the list, or at least check out the list and see where it might stand.
So, like, full disclaimer to the audience, part of that's the most recent deck builder I've played. It's a game that I was very excited to play for a long time. It's been on my shelf for a good while.
Yeah.
So I was excited to get it off the shelf. It lived up to my expectations, and it is that thing that I look for in a deck builder. It is different.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Like, we've talked it up, and it's very much a game that I will say it is not going to be for everybody. My wife likes deck builders, and that is definitely a game that I would hesitate to have her sit at the table with. I don't know. I don't really think she'd like it. I think there's just a little bit too much going on for her taste.
That makes sense.
While I've only heard good things about it, you should know what you're walking into because
know your audience.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a dense, it's going to be thinky, it's going to be.
If you like Richard the Lionheart, I think it's a good appeal. Just because you like that doesn't mean you'll like Richard the Lionheart. But if you like Richard the Lionheart, that's a good.
The structure of the game sounds like it might be appealing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't see any commonality between that and Richard the Lionheart. Like one I don't even understand how you got to that aside from that.
Having not
it's the same trip.
Let me say though,
same tracks. It's
having
the same
not
strategy.
played either, it sounds similar enough in that you're playing with somebody else and trying to win alone. That's about the only similarity in the overall.
There's a lot of strategy in the
but
tracks.
It sounds like this one's got a lot more hidden information that you're trying to draw from the way that the game is played out. So
Yeah, whatevs. But I mean, I guess there's a couple of similarities, but I don't like it. Didn't give me any of those vibes at all. But
they don't sound like they're anywhere near the same game
they're
whatsoever.
very
but
far mechanically. They're not similar mechanically, I would say. There is that team element and the tracks affecting different parts of the team, but only one winner and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like there's some similarities, but they are ancillary, and I didn't feel like they came through in gameplay much at all for me.
But you didn't like Richard Lionheart.
It's because it's not a good game.
Again.
So anyway, that is a study in Emerald.
Yeah.
And we're going to move on to the top 10 deck builders according to BGG. Now, when I put this list together, I actually went through and kind of stacked a couple things together because there were repeats along the list of this is this version of that game and this is an expansion or a standalone of the same game.
All right.
So I put together the top 10 based on sandwiching a couple of the same basic titles together. Do you guys have a clue about what number 1 might be, or do you want to wait for the very end for that?
No, we got to guess number 1 before we hear them all.
Okay. So let's have you guess, and then we'll reveal them 10-1.
So I don't think it's going to be Dominion, but that would be like the kind of obvious first choice. But I don't think it's going to be that.
Are any of them ranked in the top 100 board games?
That's a good question. Let me double check. Yes.
Come on, Russ. What's the top deck builder?
Yes.
So
they are.
So part of me
going to be Dominion.
So part of
5
me wants
of them
to
are in
say,
the top 100. Half the list.
Part of me wants to say Clank because it's so hot, but I don't know. That one's a little bit hard. I imagine that Legendary will be on the list. Dominion will be on the list. Ascension will probably be on the list.
Eon's End will
Star
be on
Realms
the
will
list.
likely be on the list. Eon's End will be on the list. It's just where. I'm torn between Clank and Ascension for the top spot. Even though I won't be
I'm gonna
surprised
go
at
with
all if it's
Dominion.
Dominion. I'm going to go with Ascension.
Okay. So number 10 on the list
Trains.
starts with a T, but not trains.
Terra Mystica?
Yeah.
What?
That's not even close.
No.
I've never played
Good
Terra
guess.
Mystica.
Thunderstone Quest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
forgot
that's
about
one
that
that I
one.
would like to check out. That one seems really cool.
And after doing research, I really want to look into number 9. Not only because it's a little bit different as far as the type of game that it or of the structure of game and the theme of the game, but we've talked about the designer quite a bit, and Martin Wallace's A Few Acres of Snow.
It's a 2-player, right?
I really want to check that one out. Like, I for whatever reason, Wildlands caught my eye the other day, and I ended up ordering that. But if I could have found the thing to talk me out of Wildlands, the next one I was going to look for was A Few Acres of Snow.
Am I wrong? Is that just a 2-player?
I'm not sure.
I feel like I've passed on it once or twice because it's a 2-player, but I
kind of
really
think it is.
want it.
I kind of think it is. I'm not positive, though.
I didn't get that information put together, and I just clicked through. So wonderful podcasting here. I'll look that up in just a second, but I'll move on to the next one. And number 8 is Harry Potter: Hogwarts Battle.
Right on.
Number 7, Blood Bowl Team Manager.
Oh, I have played that
Really?
one. That one's pretty fun.
I didn't know that one was a deck builder.
Yeah.
I looked into
feel
it
like-
and felt like it qualified. There's a couple
Yeah.
of these things
I
on this
played
list
that
that
on
I
a-
didn't feel like they
On a
were.
trip to Chicago, I met up with some guys that I met online and played, and that was what they brought.
That's awesome.
So
The what is it? Football Highlights, the new Football Highlights game.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a deck builder game, but there is a deck building element to it that seems really interesting too. I've yet to play that one, but like reading through the rule books, like at halftime, you go through like a deck building phase to like draft your team and change your strategy.
Okay.
Tyrants on the Underdark on this list. That's one I want to play. That I've just recently heard about.
Let him go through the list.
But I forgot to mention that. That's a map. Dude's on the map with a deck builder. We need to try it.
So, A Few Acres of Snow is 2-player.
Yeah.
And
Still
no,
not.
Tyrants is not on the list.
It doesn't surprise me. But...
Next up, number 6 is Hero Realms.
Nice. I'm a little bit surprised that that's as high up on the list as it was. I would have guessed it 8 or lower, honestly.
I think the expansions provide more, like the campaign, all that add.
For me personally, I mean, I would honestly probably it would end up landing at 2 or maybe 3 if I'm not thinking of something. For me personally, for deck builders, with 1 definitely being Aeon's End, it would probably end up as 2 or possibly 3 for me.
Okay.
But I know that there's a lot of people that prefer Star Realms. And there's a lot of people who specifically hate it because they prefer Star Realms, which is a special kind of hard-headed gamer
Sure.
and tribalism. But because of that contingent hating on it, I expected that it would be lower than it is.
Yeah. So the next 2, they're both in the same family somewhat, but they're
Legendary
different
and
games.
Encounters?
Yes.
Legendary.
So
Is it Alien Encounters or Firefly?
No, it's got to be Alien.
number 5 is Legendary Marvel.
Yeah. And 4 will be Alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
Legendary Encounters.
I have not
Alien.
played that one, but I have played Firefly, and I love Firefly.
I haven't played any of the Encounters versions because there's there's a whole grip of those now too.
Yeah.
And
But I've heard again.
I have heard so many good things about those, and I've heard that there's like a rule set where you can take the Alien one and the Predator one and mash them together, which is rad.
It sounds cool.
And
It's because those movies are rad.
I want to say there's a couple of Alien releases now. There's the Predator one. There's Firefly. There's Big Trouble in Little China, of all things.
Buffy, I've played. That's a good one.
Buffy, there are so many obscure, just oddball themes with the Legendary Encounters, and I know there's got to be some that I'm forgetting about.
See, and I've actually
X-Files has my eye. I want that one, but I haven't found it anywhere.
See, and I don't have any interest in Marvel Legendary, which seems weird, but the encounters I want, like either a Buffy, a Firefly, an Alien, I would like one of those.
Yeah. Number 3, Star Realms.
Not surprised.
No, it's a classic. It's
I think those
quickly
two
behind
games
Dominion
provided White Wizard with where they're at.
Yeah,
the aforementioned tribalism there.
Yeah,
and how I'm literally, if you don't have one of those in your collection and you like deck builders, go spend the $20 and get a good. deck
pick
builder.
the theme. Do you like Sword and Shield or do you want sci-fi? And go for it.
So we're looking at the top 2.
Yes,
and we have not heard Dominion. No surprise, really. Aeon's End, Clank, or Ascension.
See, I'm going to be surprised if Aeon's End is not on this list. Based on some of the lists out there that I'm starting to see and hearing, I know that it is growing pretty popular in popularity.
Yeah, but the hotness of Clank, I'm
I
expecting.
did not like Clank, so maybe I'm putting judgment on that.
I've never actually played it. I've watched you guys play Clank in space. I started to play Clank one time, and then something else happened, and we abandoned it 2 turns around the table in. So I kind of.
Were we at a convention?
No, I want to say that
store?
it was for a Dice Masters event.
Yeah.
So I got enough of the mechanics that when I watched you guys playing Clank in Space when it came out, I was like, okay, I see what's going on. I get it. I'll pass. Is essentially where I landed with Clank. Having not really played it, genuinely played a full game of it, maybe it's better than what it seems. But for me, it's fine. I wouldn't be opposed to playing it, but I'm not dying to play it.
Yeah.
So with the top 5 in this list,
This
three
list
of
is
them,
not right, by the way, because Trains is not on here.
3 of them, that's a matter of opinion. So 3 of them, and you're gonna have to influence the listeners to get your trains all the way up there with their with the rankings.
And
so.
you're gonna have to influence them to talk all of their friends into saving your little pet game.
Hey, no, I know that the people that play Trains enjoy Trains. So
This is true. I haven't heard anything bad about it, but I'm not hearing
and I totally
very much.
understand. I mean, it is the driest and a terrible theme, and I get all of that.
Honestly, your love for trains makes me want to try out, what is it, Automobiles? That's the bag builder in that series.
Is it? I thought it was airplanes. It's the bag builder. I don't know.
But
Planes, trains, and automobiles. One of them is a bag builder that I'd like to try as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Automobiles is the bag builder. I'd like to try that one too. But
Number 2, Aeon's End.
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that it's all the way up at number 2. I would have guessed Eon's End to be floating around 5.
So
I think that the order that you don't just shuffle it adds so much to the gameplay.
It's my favorite deck build. It's one of my favorite games at all time. Like, I am obviously like I'm very enthusiastic about the game, but I'm still surprised that it is that high in the world of deck builders.
it seems to be growing as well as far as the ranks go. Like I was saying, Star Realms had 2 in the top 10, 2 versions of that game in the top 10. Eon's End had 2, and the number 1 Dominion had 2 in the top 10. So I just squashed those and then moved the next ones in the list down.
Right.
So the way that I shuffled things around in BGG is I sorted it by rank and by category, and I picked card game because if you just do deck builder, what it does
full
is
building and bag building.
yes,
right? Yeah.
and then it throws in if I was to just throw just a random thing instead of going for the just a card game, the number 1 is going to be Great Western Trail, and then Concordia, and then like a bunch of games that don't feel like that type of a game whatsoever. So I went through and tried to get more specifics with just being based around a card game. So that's how I threw the list together if anybody wanted to go through and check things out. And even when I did that, there was a couple of anomalies on that list, one being Century Spice Road at the bottom of that list.
No.
And then Century Golem Edition.
No, absolutely not.
And and then
shit, I guess there is a little bit of a deck building element to it, but it's another one of those where you're building a hand and you're building and it's more of an engine and like that's it's hard to say that is not a deck builder because there's a deck building element, but that's not a deck builder.
Yeah.
I feel like a few of the runners-up had a better reason to be on that list, and that's the solo game Friday, which I've heard is a deck builder, and then Mystic Vale. And
I love Mystic Vale.
And then, to be honest with you, I think that, to be fair, Aeon's End should be in number 1 because it shows up a 3rd time with Aeon's End Legacy. So that game is,
So which version is the top one? Is it War Eternal?
It's the original version.
The original one.
War Eternal's the number 2 slot, and then Legacy is number 3.
Right.
Pretty quickly behind it. So,
for the record,
there's a thing that they did with the newest one called the New Age. That's another standalone box. That's, it's got like a micro legacy element to it where you go on expeditions. I have yet to play it because I've heard that on the cards there's spoilers for Legacy, and I've yet to play Legacy, so I haven't even messed with the New Age. But I know that one of the things that they did is they added what's called expeditions, and with your expeditions, it's like a series. From what I understand, it seems like it's a series of 2 or 3 games against increasingly difficult bosses, and like they throw extra things into your card pool, or you lose things from your card pool. So it's like, instead of it being a 12 game legacy campaign, you get like a little like mini 3 game campaign, and there's like multiples of those within the box. which is rad. Like there's so much that they're doing just with Aeon's End.
So if I'm to take Century out, both Centuries out, Trains, it looks like it would be number 19.
Well, see, and then it's rated 443 overall and 286 in strategy.
It's above Eminent Domain, One Deck Dungeon, and Ascension.
That
One
game
Deck Dungeon is not a deck builder.
See, so I love Trains, and and I love art in games.
Are you
I
sure?
feel like that art really hurts that game.
It's because it's ugly, yeah.
I mean, it's...
So One Deck Dungeon, that's not deck builder?
No,
Oh,
no
okay.
way. No, so with what you're doing with One Deck Dungeon is
You have one deck, and you
you
go in a
have
dungeon.
one deck. It is a dungeon. You flip over a card, and it's been a minute since I played it, but like you flip over a card, and there's different colored dice, and each character rolls certain colors of dice, and you have to hit like certain numbers of certain colors to defeat the monster, and then you flip over the next.
Do you build
card.
your dungeon?
No.
Oh.
It's at least semi-random. I don't, like I said, it's been a while, but it's a dice placement. There's a resource element or resource management element to it, and it's very much a random dungeon crawl type of game.
That makes sense.
It's
Having
it's
not
played
played
with
it,
a deck
it
of cards.
seemed like
It's
it might have
small
been.
enough- It's small enough you could totally fit it in your pocket and take it anywhere. It is not a deck building game at all.
Well, that's helpful information for such an episode.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you guys want to hit on?
I'm just glad that Trains jumped in at least in the top 20.
It beat Ascension, and that's one of the, old trustees.
That's pretty much an LCG, right? Like a living card game. I feel like they're always coming out with a new Ascension.
That's kind of how all of the deck builders are that keep coming out, because you're getting the same pool of cards with every set. It's not like there's any variability. So all of them are kind of like a living card game.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, Ascension
do
is
they play
another
that
one.
competitively, Ascension, or am
I'm
I just
sure that someone does.
I'm sure they have
I
tournaments
don't.
for it.
Yeah, I did buy a copy of that once, one of the new ones, and I ended up culling it for my collection before I played it. So
Really?
I've played the app
I know that
version of
seems
it. It's
crazy.
all right.
I know. Are you feeling okay?
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to Ignite, which me and Kevin did the group buy so that we could get a little bit of a discount on shipping or whatever.
Oh, nice.
So me and
We
Kevin
should have done that with the Red Outpost.
are going we both went all in on
we
it
should have
together.
just not even paid shipping. We should be like, we're gonna pick it up.
Well, dude, if you would have clicked my link
know,
and I would have
sorry.
clicked your link, and
I'm really bad at just instantaneously
It's all good.
getting what I want.
it's all good.
Yeah, much more immediate. I'm really looking forward to the Guar game that's supposed to be coming in March as of the update
cool.
that I got earlier today.
Isn't there also a Juggalos one?
Yeah, ICP deck building
Yeah,
game.
there is an ICP deck
Yeah.
building game,
But
that
it's not-
exists. It's out.
It's
out
not
in the
really
world
hard.
somewhere.
It's not really easy to get from when I looked into it. I was like, oh, that seems kind of fun. Well, that's not easy to find.
Yeah,
I had no idea Juggalos were into board games.
Just got to get a hold of Shaggy 2 Dope.
you know,
talk to
there's
him
more
himself.
Juggalos in the world than there are polar bears. That's a fact. That is
Yeah.
an actual thing. There's more Juggalos than
We don't
polar
need
bears.
sadness at the end of every episode.
I'm really looking forward to the Guar one because it's Guar and it's coming.
I can't wait to
relatively
play
soon.
that and have
I'm-
Gore playing in the background and totally just.
Yeah, dude. I'm really excited about it and subjecting some of our.
We did play Gore. What game were we playing when we put Gore on? I can't remember. It was
I'm
when
not
it was
sure,
in
but
the
I-
other game room.
I know that one night we got when I think when we were playing Halloween games, I just kind of threw out play Rob Zombie, and we ended up listening to Rob Zombie for 3 hours straight. I was like, wow, no one has changed this because that is not right up a lot of our friends' alleys. I'm hoping that Apex Therapod gets its second edition Kickstarter.
I'm interested in playing that one after you mentioned it.
Yeah, I want to play it again. I want to play the one that I have we should just do it.
I'd love to play the Cthulhu one again.
Yeah.
And A Study in Emerald. I really
definitely need to play A Study in Emerald.
I'm in
again.
for all of the above.
I'm also
and Trains. I want to play Trains.
So Aeon's End seems like they have a Kickstarter every year. I'm curious to see if that trend continues.
Yeah.
And to see what they do next. I
wonder if they're going to use...
I would like for one of you guys to get Thunderstone Quest. And isn't the
That's
other
a
one...
small box.
Yeah, just a tiny little thing. That other... Isn't that Legacy game, that first one that Stegmeyer did, isn't that a deck builder also? It's not Thunderstone. It's Charterstone. Is that one a deck builder?
I don't know.
No, Charterstone's like a city builder.
Yeah.
City building map.
Worker placement.
Clearly I don't know what I'm talking about.
Worker placement, which I kind of want because what I understand once you play through the quote-unquote legacy that I've heard sounds more to me like the Harry Potter where it's just kind of building on stuff. Mm-hmm. Then you just have a custom version of a game that's still fun to play.
I think you should get Thunderstone Quest. I think that's right up your alley, Russ. Because I don't want to.
Is it Trains?
Yeah, there's trains in it for sure.
Tons of trains.
It's all about.
But like it's
trains.
Just like your Trains deck building game, but like with all the improvements that you wish Trains had.
There's
specifically
not really
those
any
ones.
Improvements I want for Trains.
Yeah, very minimal. Very few
go-to.
things. Just turned it up a little bit, basically. Yeah, the very few differences.
Well, On Mars should be here by the 15th, so we'll see.
That's
how
a nice
that goes
light
too.
one too. You're really buying all those
I
light
know.
ones for your family place.
I know. Well, I've fallen in love with them.
Well,
what can I say?
Saturdays have been really good. We're getting a lot of playtime. So
yeah.
Well, let's make it happen. We have more than one important game going on that day.
Nope.
Niners.
Mm-hmm.
Go Niners.
Yep.
And on that note, thanks for sharing another episode with us. Please help us further develop the show and consider leaving us some feedback. To do that, you can rate and review the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever podcatcher that you use, or just simply send us an email to thelategamepodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us at thelategamepodcast.com and at The Late Game Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as the ever-growing YouTube channel. We just don't have as much actual video. It's just reissues of the podcast up there for now. But anyway, thanks again for staying up with The Late Game.
I love the mechanic though of...
Should we save some of this for the show?
Yeah.
We might as well.
Yeah.